Hi, my name is Rylan Denshi. I'm going to be talking about the American culture in the Nacirema culture as stated by Horace Minor in his article called The Body Ritual Among the Nacirema. So in this article, it mainly talks about American practices. So some of it was working out. It referred to these medicine men as medical professionals. In the medicine cabinet, the magical packets are so numerous that the people forget what their purposes were and fear to use them again. So this is talking about some of the pharmacists and the doctors. They also talked about dentists a little bit. So dentists, it said their teeth would fall out, their gums would bleed, their jaws shrink, their friends desert them, and their lovers reject them. So these are all just theories on the dentists. And to someone in the outside community or an outside culture, brushing your teeth is not necessarily an American culture, but this is something that would be very weird to somebody. Keeping your teeth clean and keeping them very healthy is something that would look weird to somebody who's not used to something like that. So yes, as Americans, we care a lot about having nice teeth. Also, it said in this article that shaving men's faces, it made it sound like it was a very horrible torture, but as someone who isn't part of this culture where men shaving their faces popular, this would look very weird and maybe might even look like torture. Getting women's hair done also is something that's kind of weird. In some cultures, women don't mess with their hair, mess with their bodies. So something like plastic surgery was a big thing in this article. So an American practice or something in the American culture that might look extremely weird to somebody outside of this culture would be the jury system. So countries without a jury system, they wouldn't have equal distribution of power, and those countries are apt to be more concerned about indulgence as their fate is determined by someone higher or less just and fair powers, so such as a king. If a king is, he's the only one in power, so people in countries that have a king, he could be angry and just want you dead, and that's how it goes. So as a U.S. citizen, it protects the fairness and in the justice system, having a jury. It would be weird to someone who doesn't understand the jury system to just have random civilians judge the acts and the crimes that you've done, and their fate lies in the hands of just these random civilians that were randomly picked. As a U.S. citizen, we value the justice system because if we were to have an unjust man in charge, our fate would always be negative, and we would have no hope in the law and no hope in the system to handle certain situations and certain crimes. The U.S. actually has a checks and balance system, so if one person or one branch has too much power or they're making unjust choices, another branch or another person in charge could say that is unjust, and they could override that. So that's just like the court system. The jury system is a majority, so the majority of the people in the jury decide their fate. The history of the justice system has actually stayed very consistent through its creation, but there is a few minor changes that have been made, such as the U.S. population keeps increasing, it became too difficult for the jury to insist, or the court system to insist, that the jury know all the facts of the case before going into the trial. So the jury became comprised of people who actually had no idea any facts of the case until the trial day. So this creates less of a bias as people are hearing the case for the first time. Something that has been extremely beneficial to the court system in limiting its bias has been the fact that all the jury members have to promise, or they have to show that they don't know any facts of the case, even though that it's kind of hard to find jurors who haven't heard any facts of a super famous case. So that actually has been very beneficial to the U.S. However, there have been things that have been detrimental, like the political polarization that has kind of split the U.S. between political parties, so it's been very controversial lately. There has been political polarization in the recent future. The jury system is an extremely beneficial thing to the U.S., although it really might look weird to someone on the outside coming in, having random people decide your fate, but it actually protects the personal rights and allows people to have a fair and just case.